Do you ever see something and think, that is bollocks? And by that, I mean that's your reaction to what you've seen or what you're reading, and not necessarily the fact that you're currently looking at a pair of bollocks. Unless, of course, you were hoping to be looking at a pair of bollocks, and if that's the case, happy days, and you should tune into videos by myself and Gonzo more often. I said it before you did. You can't have that joke. I've already made it. Anyway, that's what happened to me yesterday. That was my reaction yesterday, not what I was doing yesterday. What a terrible introduction to this video. I'm sticking with it. I can't be bothered. Anyway, I seen a headline. West Ham must sell before they buy this summer. My reaction was, you guessed it, that is bollocks. I ain't having it. And that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video as to why I don't believe it. But I've got a question for you, a quiz question, and I'm going to give the answer at the end of the video. Which player do you think has clocked the second fastest speed in the Premier League this season? Now, obviously, number one, unsurprisingly, is Mickey van der Ven of Spurs. But whom do you think is number two? I've got that answer and some other random stats at the end of the video, as well as this unboxing. It is a shirt. It's a shirt, but it's a special shirt for me. It's for me. I've treated myself. I'm going to open it, show you what I've got. Show off a little bit. Anyway, if you're new here, please do subscribe, drop a like on the video. You know the score by now. So, the club, I feel, are leaking and stressing, and I think they're very keen to stress that they're skint, pleading poverty ahead of the summer transfer window. We're not even in April yet. Now, as we say, in defence of the club, I don't mean to sort of defend them with this statement. There is one bit of evidence which perhaps backs up that claim, which is the club blackmailing season ticket holders into renewing before the end of March. However, I think that's a cash flow situation rather than an ability to spend situation. Two different things completely. And I've got no doubt that West Ham will need to sell in order to spend more. But I'm pretty certain that there will be a reasonable budget there available for Graham Potter, Kyle McCauley and whoever else is involved. Apparently Billy Reid has been sort of suggesting players for McCauley and Potter to look at, one being from the Scottish Premiership. But when they are doing their shortlist ahead of summer transfer window, I'm pretty certain there's already a hefty transfer budget there. But if we want to spend big money, then we'll have to sell, which is natural. That's a normal thing for a Premier League football club to have to do. You can spend this, but you want to spend that, you're going to have to raise Y. Not an issue. But there's certainly a lot of players being linked with moves away from West Ham. Jacob Steinberg came up with a list yesterday. 5 players on there. Rodriguez, Fulkrug, Mavropanos was on there. Didn't mention the players that are currently out on loan in regards to Neil Figuered and Maxwell Cornet, who you may scoff at, but he's been doing well in Italy prior to his injury. But Vieira apparently really likes him and is keen to keep him at Genoa. So fingers crossed that loan continues to do well. And we can just, sounds really bad, just get any money for Cornet. I think anything's a bit of a bonus. One transfer I loved at the time has turned out really badly. But anyway, the reason I think it's bollocks is because of third parties here. It's not the club have said anything to make me believe that. Maybe back in January transfer window when we were linked to the likes of Brian Brobby and the club were contacted and it was a case of, well, the deal's there if we want to do it. Now, if you remember, the Brian Brobby deal, we were going to be buying him for about 30 million or something in the summer. He was going to come on loan with an obligation to buy him. That's why we didn't go through with it. Not because that we couldn't spend the money, but because Graham Potter didn't want to sign him. So that's why we bailed on it. But the club were willing, due to negotiations, they were willing to commit to buying Brian Brobby in the summer. So there's a bit of evidence that we've got some money to spend. Now, in the last 24 hours, it came out that West Ham were offered Wissa, the Brentford striker, and we rejected him. Now, he was also offered to Nottingham Forest. They made a bid. I think it was supposed to be 25 million. I think the agents contacted people, said 25 million. Nottingham Forest went, yeah, 25 million. Brentford went, no, you're not getting him for 25 million. So I think it was Wissa's agent trying to drum up interest in his player, who has just over a year left on his contract. So summer 2026, his Brentford contract comes to an end. 28 years old. So whichever deal he signs next, whether it be at Brentford or a different club, you would imagine it's the biggest contract of his life. That will be a hefty one. It'll be a few £1 million in these peak years. But I'll tell you what, he's having a damn good season and he's a fantastic player. I think he would have been a good signing for Nottingham Forest, by the way, because obviously at the time they were in a Champions League race. They still are. But at the time, back in January, I thought that's someone they could get that will score goals today. You want to stay in that top 4, top 5, he's someone that would help do a job. Because Chris Wood's having a fantastic season, don't get me wrong. But it does feel unsustainable. Will Chris Wood mirror what he's done this season, next season? My money would be on no, and I'd happily bet on, and substantially bet on no. It's no chance. It's not going to happen. He's having a great season. That is it. He suits the way Nottingham Forest play, and I think Wissa would have as well. But here's the thing with the report. It wasn't that West Ham rejected Wissa. It was Graham Potter rejected Wissa. He doesn't get to do that if there's no money. That would suggest that if Potter said, yes, I would like him, West Ham would have been able to pay that 25 million to get Wissa in. I'm not too bothered if Potter wanted someone in. If we were in with a shout of European football or relegation, I would have said, yep, good signing. It's a short-term fix. Gets you out of a hole or gets you into European football. But we weren't. That's why in January I was keen for us to keep the money, whichever was available, keep it for the summer and have more money to spend and a greater pool of players to choose from. So I'm pleased we didn't sign him. I understand why someone would have done, but he's 29 at the start of next season. He's not cheap. 25 million ain't cheap. I think he chucked 20 million on top of that. I know it sounds a lot, but it is a lot. I'm talking about as if it's pennies. You get the ability of player and the profile player vastly greater than Wissa. Taking nothing away, but my point is the report suggested we had money to spend. And then there's the people that are independent of the club, two in particular. We've got Kieran Maguire, who's always said that we'll have money to spend. Now, to back up Kieran Maguire, we can go back 18 months. Came on Hammer's Chat ahead of summer 2024. Came on Hammer's Chat. And he said West Ham are in a really healthy position financially. They've got money. And at the time, the club were pleading poverty, as they always do. Oh, no, we don't really have loads of money, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to have European football next season. Income's going to drop. Factually true. But Kieran Maguire sat here, well, not here, there's on the screen next to me, and said, don't worry about it. Plenty money. Went and spent over 100 million. Maguire's claims were proven correct. Maguire is still claiming today, this summer, West Ham will be fine. West Ham have got money to spend. They should have money to spend looking at their accounts. And also there's wiggle room when it comes to PSR. They're not at their limit as much as the club make on. The club are keen to put it out there. Not just we are skin. They're keen to put it out there. We can't spend because of PSR. But you've got those who are knowledgeable when it comes to football financing. You're all right. We've got plenty of room there. Don't you worry about it. But there's another person I'm going to chuck out there. If you don't like Maguire for whatever reason, fair enough. Here's another one. Hopefully you like this one. David Ornstein, chief football writer at The Athletic. The main guy when it comes to football at The Athletic. Now, I think The Athletic, this is my personal opinion, I think it's one of the best when it comes to football reporting. I think David Ornstein is the best when it comes to football journalism. I think he's the best one. I don't feel like he delves too much into the transfer rumour tittle-tattle. He's involved in it to some extent, but I feel like he reports the news rather than rumours per se. Doesn't miss too much, David Ornstein. But last week he was speaking about West Ham's summer transfer window, and he basically said West Ham are an interesting club because they've always got money to spend. There's always a lot of activity, there's a lot of turnovers, and they will be busy again this summer. Nobody's suggesting we won't be. When you look at the amount of players that could be leaving the club, naturally you're going to have to replace them. But he said along the lines of, I've heard nothing to suggest they don't have money to spend. I've heard nothing at all. Not even a squeak. Now, he's someone that only speaks to people that he considers reliable. If I was to ring up David Ornstein today and say, hey, David, I've heard it, he wouldn't put it out there. Who the hell are you? Go away. he will have his reliable sources. But the last person I'm going to chuck out there is Tim Steidten. And I know you might think, why would you use him? Because when Tim Steidten was sat next to Lopetegui, not even 12 months ago, he was sat there. Lopetegui was asked, do you have money to spend? What's going on in the transfers? And he just said, oh, you better speak to this man here. This is when they were getting on. You have to ask Tim. And Tim was sat there, proud as punch, beaming smile next to Lopetegui. And Steidten sat there saying, oh, well, he didn't use these words, but this is what I took from it. There's loads of money to spend. The club have been really good over the years. Financially, they're in a really good position. There's shitloads of money to spend. Now, we did go spend lots of it, but I doubt he was speaking about it as if I've got one big transfer window as a makeshift director of football. Sporting director, that was his role. Technical director. Noble's a sporting director. As technical director, I've got one summer and that's it. I doubt he thought that. In January, we were still trying to sign players. It's just that we had a managerial change and we couldn't get anything done. Also, lastly, Steidten was the last name. Here's the last bullet from my gun. It's loaded. This bullet is David Sullivan. So I'm going to use my David Sullivan bullet for my gun. I'm going to point it back at David Sullivan, who I have no doubt is the one putting these claims out there that we're skint. Even though we're offering Jonathan David an offer he can't refuse, and we're offering Angel Gomez $100,000 a week, which are fair offers for those players whose contracts are expiring. But you don't do that if you're skint, do you? Anyway, David Sullivan bullet. In January, he supposedly bid for John Duran, and he told people that he bid for John Duran 50 million or whatever it was. You don't do that if you ain't got money. Well, maybe you do. You just know how I feel. I'm sceptical about the bid as if it was... Do I think we made a bid? Yes. Do I think there was any intent on signing John Duran? No. Because if we did, it wouldn't have been 50 million. It would have been greater. But my point is, he was the one that made that. So if you're going to bid 50 million on a striker, you should damn well expect people to expect that 50 million to be spent later on. So even if we add nothing to it, that's it. He was going all in on John Duran. Every penny we had was going in. That was all. Well, that would mean we've got 50 million to spend in the summer before we sold anyone. So that's why, when I seen the rumour, West Ham must sell before they buy, I thought, that is bollocks. There's way too many reports / news / evidence to suggest that we are not as skint as we're making on. And we better not be, because this squad needs a rebuild. I think this is the biggest rebuild I've seen at West Ham for a long time. You get it wrong. I generally feel like this. People will say clickbait, but I'm not putting in the title or thumbnail. It can't be clickbait if it ain't in the title to be clicked on, right? But if we get it wrong, like badly wrong this summer, I think we can be in a relegation battle next season. If we get it right, as in everything's perfect, I think we could challenge. No, I'm going to go one further. I think we could qualify for European football next season. I think the difference between how good we could do and how bad we could do next season, I think is there and up for grabs. I think a large part of it will hinge on the summer transfer window. Best case, European football. Worst case, Championship football. I do genuinely think that. I think we'll be in the middle, for what it's worth. My prediction now, we'll be down the middle. Won't get European football. We won't get relegated. I'm not really worried about relegation. But if we were to come out and start penny pinching and these claims were true, then I'd start to worry. But I don't believe them, hence why I'm not panicking just yet. Anyway, there you go. That's the West Ham talk. If you don't like the quiz, off you go. But before you do disappear, please do drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. Right, quiz question. Who was second in the fastest Premier League player this season? Matheus Nunes of Man City. I would never have guessed that. By the way, I'm going to give you the top 5. So 1, Van der Ven. 2, Nunes. 3rd is Embo of Brentford. 4th is Menta of Brighton. And 5th was Anthony Alanga. All believable. But here's some more fun stats that came out. Thomas Souček spends less time walking than any other player in the Premier League. A random stat, a believable one. So he walks for 54.2% of his time on the pitch, which is the least out of anybody else. It's not the only Thomas Souček stat, though. Thomas Souček is the 5th slowest player in the Premier League. So the slowest player in the Premier League. Now, I should add, this doesn't include goalkeepers, but also it's done by minutes as well, so that if someone's only made one appearance, they include it. They've got to have played like 1,000 minutes or something like that to be included in this chart. But Bernardo Silva is the slowest, followed by Craig Dawson, then it's Mikel Merino, then it's Casemiro, and Thomas Souček is the 5th slowest player. However, the furthest jogged in the Premier League this season, distance covered, but at jogging, is Thomas Souček. He's covered nearly 141 kilometres. Second is Bruno Guimaraes, then it's Yuri Tielemans, then it's Bruno Fernandes, and then it's Caicedo of Chelsea. And the last random stat is the furthest run per 90. Number 1 is Kulusevski, 12.3 kilometres per game. Number 2 is Thomas Souček, 12.2 kilometres per game. Tonali is also there. Bernardo Silva is 11.9 and Flynn Downs is 11.6. That's your top 5 for the furthest run per 90. So there goes some running statistics for you. I've seen the article today, read it. I quite enjoy stuff like that. Right, the random box. Gonzo did a box opening at the weekend. I sent him one. This isn't from Gonzo, but it arrived today. I'm quite excited by it, so I'm gonna show you it. Some people will like it. Some people will love it. And some people will hate it and think I've wasted my money, but I don't really care. Look at this. It's signed, but it's also match worn. It's a match worn Pablo Fornals Real Betis shirt, and I'm trying to find an example of how you know it's match worn. Here you go. Can you see it? Maybe you can't. Oh, you can't. Let me turn the light off. Welcome to this professional video of Hammers Chat. Can you see the mud? Yeah, you can see the mud there. It's muddy. It's still muddy. I hope it's muddy. And Real Betis shirt. So there you go. Real Betis. He wore it. Can't remember. I'll have to check who he wore it against. He wore it a couple of weeks ago. So there you go. Pablo Fornals shirt. Signed by Pablo. Worn by Pablo. And it feels quite big. Size medium. Feels quite big for a medium. I don't know. I've got a Bourne one down there. I was going to compare it because I think Bourne size medium for West Ham as well. There you go. That's my shirt. I've now got 2 non-West Ham shirts. My other one's up there. I'm not getting it. It's a Napoli Billy Gilmore one. I'm trying to build a little collection. Second shirt. I'm excited. Anyway, right, I'm off. Sell before buy. I ain't having it. Sell to spend more. Certainly. That's a normal thing to do. But we ain't got no money unless we sell players. 1, don't believe it, and 2, better not be bloody true, because if it is, as we say, people need to be sacked. Well, we've already sacked him, haven't we? Other people, Sullivan, for example, needs to be held accountable big time. Right, I'm off. Catch you tomorrow.